Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Geoffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health, and really without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
Misfits of science. Misfits of science. Hey, misfits of science.
Welcome to episode 149 of Nerdery and Murdery.
Big 149. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey with your Murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and the lows, the ups and the downs, the good and the bad, and the nerd and the murd. What's going on with you?
But still getting stuff moved around. I basically set up a little recording area in the it's the laundry room / little work room.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of nice. I got a nice big screen so I could see your lovely face.
Cool. Well, I'm really excited because as the time we're recording this, at any rate, Fallout dropped on Amazon Prime. I haven't watched it yet.
I binged it yesterday.
Is it good?
It's really good.
Okay. Because I'm really looking forward to watching it. I love Walt Goggins.
Oh, Walt Goggins is great.
I had seen, I can't remember if it was on Cinema Blend or Screen Rant, maybe CBR. I can't remember. One of those sites gave a pretty bad review of it, so I was a little concerned. But I'm going to watch it anyway. Fallout is one of my favorite franchises. Everything except Fallout 76. I didn't like Fallout 76 at all, but 1, 2, 3, and 4 are great. Excuse me. I will say this, that if you are an Amazon Prime member, you can get Fallout 3, 4, and 76 for free right now.
Oh, because a tie-in with the
Yeah.
series. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Also, the side game Brotherhood of Steel and Fallout Las Vegas, you can get all those for free right now. So I think that's really cool. I didn't play Fallout Vegas. I may have to get that one and toy around with it for a while because I love the Fallout world. Please tell me the dog is named Dogmeat.
The dog is named Dogmeat.
Outstanding. Good.
And he is almost immortal.
Yeah, that's how he is in the game. So, that's great. I can't wait to start watching it. But the reason I haven't started right into Fallout is we have been watching every night Resident Alien.
Resident Alien is exceptional. That
show is phenomenal. It's so funny. Alan Tudyk is just brilliant in it. It's on Netflix, about an alien who crashes on Earth, and he's able to morph himself into looking human, because in his alien form is very not human.
No.
But it's brilliant. It's in a small town in Colorado. All the characters in it are great.
And he is the coroner in this town.
He's the town doctor.
Oh yeah, that's right. Also the coroner.
Yes. He's not the coroner. He's not the coroner at first, and then he stops being the doctor for a while, and then he becomes the doctor again and the coroner. But yeah, he learns all of his physician techniques by watching YouTube videos.
Uh-huh.
And reading.
Because he knows nothing of human anatomy.
No, he knows nothing, and he learns it all that way, and oftentimes he learns it just before he sees a case, which is very funny. But he's looking for parts of his ship to repair everything, and it's just, oh my God, it's so brilliant, so funny. I think we're closing in on the end of season 2, and season 3 just recently started.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. I don't know if all the episodes came out at once. Or I don't know. We'll get to that, but I love it. I love the fact that Nathan Fillion is a guest star in season 2 as an octopus. So funny. God, watch Resident Alien if you haven't already watched it. It's absolutely brilliant. So funny. I mean, laugh out loud funny. So anyway, that's all I had with that. So Zig, I'll let you step over on the nerdery side of the house.
Excellent. Today we're going to talk about 3 little-known sci-fi TV shows.
All right.
The first one is Misfits of Science.
And I vaguely remember this. I know I watched it, but I only vaguely remember it.
Yeah, I watched the crap out of it, and I was like, oh my God, this is a really cool science fiction show. I hope it lasts. It didn't.
No, it did not.
Back in the 80s. Matter of fact, all 3 of these series, they did not last. Either they didn't get the ratings, or they were too expensive to make. One of them was actually quite popular. Well, I say in the 80s. I think it's actually 1979 when the second one did. Anyway, we'll start with Misfits of Science. Misfits of Science is an American science fiction comedy drama television series created by James D. Perriott that aired on NBC from October 4th, 1985 to February 21st, 1986. The series featured superpowered humans and their madcap adventures. The team is formed by Dr. Billy Hayes, a research scientist at the Humanityne Institute who specializes in human anomalies. He works with shrinking Dr. Elvin L. Lincoln, and together they recruit electrically powered Johnny Bukowski, a rock and roll musician, and Gloria Danello, a telekinetic teenager. Yeah, that's still hard to say. A double-length TV pilot and 15 additional episodes were produced. However, one episode did not air before the show was canceled due to low ratings. The name Misfits of Science and other conceptual ideas were the brainchild of then president of the NBC Entertainment, Brandon Tartikoff. He explained to the series, "We'll rely on the National Enquirer for story ideas. It's loosely inspired by the dynamics we saw in Ghostbusters, sort of a kickback Friday type of show." The ninth episode was the first paid writing job for Tim Kring, who later originated and produced the thematically similar Heroes in 2006. The main title sequence and its theme song were unusual for TV shows of the era. Donald Todd, head writer and story editor, described them as follows. The main titles are fun. It's really forward-looking. Jim was forward-looking in many ways, and we fought a lot about that. But it starts off with Bobby Short doing the theme, and then there's the kicking over of the TV and into a more contemporary version of the theme. He was trying to say, we're not doing that show, we're doing this show, and it's more hip. And I remember the people at Universal going, why don't you do it without the TV? We don't like the TV. And I don't think they gave him the budget for it. I think we had to find it ourselves. It's a really cheap thing. It's just a guy playing piano and then a foot kicking over a TV. But it was really controversial because back then nobody did anything interesting in the main titles. You were showed the characters sliding into frame, but I remember this was pretty cool and Jim wrote it. We'll talk about some of the actors. Dean Paul Martin Jr., born Dino Paul Crescetti Jr., November 17th, 1951 to March 21st, 1987, was an American pop singer and film and television actor, a member of the California Air National Guard. Martin died in a crash during a military training flight. He was the son of the entertainer Dean Martin. He starred as Dr. Billy Hayes, the leader of the team who has no superpowers. He is a young research scientist at the Humanityne Institute who specializes in human anomalies, and a fast-talking but good-hearted schemer full of boyish youth enthusiasm who often gets his team into as much trouble as he gets them out of. Although easily distracted whenever an attractive woman walks by, he's honestly interested in getting involved in a serious relationship with Jane Miller, even after she shows up pregnant by another man.
Hey, real quick, I'm sorry. I hate to go back, but Humanityne Institute just reminded me. I want to go back to Fallout for a minute. Is the Institute a part of it at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. A little bit of everything you remember from Fallout is in there.
Perfect.
It's messed up.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah.
Really
the Institute is messed up. Yeah. Okay. All right. Continue.
Kevin Peter Hall was an American actor, and Hall stood 7 foot 2 inches tall and frequently played monster characters during his career. He was original title character in the science fiction Predator franchise, appearing in the first 1987 film and its 1990 sequel. Hall also portrayed the eponymous Harry in the fantasy comedy film Harry and the Hendersons, a role he reprised for the first season of NBC's television adaptation in 1990 and 1991. His human roles included Dr. Elvin L. Lincoln on the NBC science fiction series Misfits of Science. So Dr. L. Lincoln, Billy's colleague and close friend, has the ability to shrink for minutes at a time from his height of 7'4" to 11 inches via hormonal treatments, which he activates by pressing a nerve on the back of his neck. A recurring joke after such transformations is he always had to put on the tiny change of clothes he carried for him because of his small size. The character is shy and struggles socially, and despite being so tall, he is a very bad basketball player. That's why he wanted to shrink down, because he got tired of people asking him to play basketball because he doesn't like it. You also had Mark Thomas Miller as Johnny B, or John Bukowski, a rock and roll musician who electrically shocked on stage and resulted in distributing electrical powers. He continually drains any electrically charged items in his surroundings, forcing him to live in isolation. He wears sunglasses because his eyes glow when he is fully charged. He can throw lightning bolts forcefully and run at superhuman speed, easily outracing in one episode a parody of the $6 Million Man. But he is vulnerable to water, which short-circuits him and burns his skin. He is also a big Chuck Berry fan. Courtney Cox as Gloria Dinalo, a troubled telekinetic teenager with a history of juvenile delinquency and a mother in a mental institution who claims Gloria's father is from outer space. She has a crush on Johnny, and Gloria can only use her telekinetic powers on things that she can see. So if she can't see it, she can't move it, which is kind of plays as a foil. We also had Diane Savita as Miss Nance, the scientist's secretary. Although she usually seems more interested in doing her nails, going on her coffee break, and watching her soap opera, she's actually the one who keeps their department running, and is always there at the end of the series to turn off the lights and say goodnight to the rabbits in their cages. Jennifer Holmes is Jane Miller, Gloria's probation officer. Although attracted to Billy, she is often put off by his eccentric behavior. Her character appears only in the earlier episodes and disappears after the first 7 episodes, although Holmes is still in the opening credits through episode 12. We had Max Wright playing Dick Stetmeyer, the uptight director of Humanityne Institute, and unlike the other members of the cast, he isn't actually considered to be one of the misfits. We had Mickey Jones as Arnold Beef, Iceman Beefinator, who got his powers to freeze anything he touched by placing himself in an experimental cryogenic cold storage unit back in the year 1937 due to grief caused by the loss of his beloved Amelia Earhart. The team drives around in an ice cream truck because the lumbering and now rather simple-minded Iceman dies if he gets too warm. So they keep him in a freezer. Beef only appears in the pilot episode due to a legal objection from Marvel Comics, who published a similarly named character in X-Men, but the characters continued to use the ice cream truck forever afterwards. Misfits of Science. So you do remember this show?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah. This one was, and I've got the first 3 episodes in our playlist. If you want to go back and check it out. They're right. That whole thing where on the TV, you see this guy playing piano and singing the Misfits of Science, and then a pair of Converse clad feet kick the TV off the little stand it's on, and then they go into the rock and roll promo with the ice cream truck running at 90 miles an hour. This show is great. Again, it didn't do real well at the in the ratings. I'm not sure what it was up against, but I think they had something with this one. It was really sweet, but it was also weird, and all the characters were just kind of quirky. And Courtney Cox went on to fame and fortune,
right?
A few years later. Wow, about 10 years later. Well, I think she did Family Ties first, and then she did a couple of other shows that didn't get picked up or didn't last a season, and then she ended up doing Friends in 94. Or was it 95? 95. We've had this conversation.
Wondering what it was up against. I wonder what night it was on. I mean, it was NBC.
Yeah.
In the 80s, and I mean, they had their Thursday night was their big night.
Yeah, I don't think this was a Thursday night show. I think this was like a Friday night show.
Well, that would possibly be why it failed. Friday was kind of a failure for a lot of shows in the 80s.
But it was one of those ones that all the geek guys really, really enjoyed it. I'm just looking to see if it tells when it ran.
October 4th, 1985 to February 21st. October. It was a Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. Friday night. I wonder what it was up against.
Nothing.
Oh, yeah.
It's just Friday night. It's just Friday night.
Friday Night Def.
Yep.
It did play pretty good in France and Germany. In France, the series is known as Superminds, and Germany is the Specialists on the Way, only in German. In Brazil is Short Circuit, and in Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and the rest of Latin America as the Rebel Scientists. It was released as a 5-disc DVD box set in Germany because they really, really enjoyed it. But it did not do well here. It was, it didn't play here. And it's really sad because the show itself is pretty funny. It's unusual. The cast was good. We're fine. The next show in our list is Cliffhangers. Cliffhangers is an American drama television series that aired on NBC from February 27th to May 1st, 1979. It had attempted to revive the genre of movie serials in a television format. Each hour-long episode was divided into 3 20-minute segments. A mystery, Stop Susan Williams, a science fiction western hybrid called The Secret Empire, and a horror story called The Curse of Dracula. Do you remember Cliffhangers at all?
It sounds familiar, but I don't remember this one.
So, Stop Susan Williams was a takeoff of the old serial, The Perils of Pauline. It starred Susan Anton as a globe-trotting newspaper photographer, Susan Williams, who was investigating the mysterious death of her brother, Alan, and stumbles across a vast international conspiracy. The Secret Empire, which was a pastiche of the Gene Autry movie, the serial The Phantom Empire, detailing the 1880s Wild West adventures of Marshal Jim Donner, played by Geoffrey Scott, who stumbles upon the futuristic underground city of Chimera, which is run by aliens. Scenes on the surface were sepia-toned. So it was, had an Old West feel to it. But when they went into the underground city, they were in full color. So they stood in stark contrast. And finally, The Curse of Dracula revolved around a young woman's quest to avenge her mother against Count Dracula, played by Michael Nouri, who is living undercover as a college teacher in San Francisco. To add the in-progress feelings of the proceedings, all 3 series started with a different chapter number. Although this was the first broadcast for all of them, Stop Susan Williams began at Chapter 2, The Secret Empire started with Chapter 3, and The Curse of Dracula started with Chapter 4. Cliffhangers was an expensive production due to 3 simultaneously production units being required. The hope was that if one of the serials caught on, it could be spun off into its own series. However, the show aired opposite Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley.
Death.
Yeah, the number 1 and number 2 most popular shows in television at the time. The show was canceled after only 10 episodes had aired, by which point only The Curse of Dracula had reached its conclusion. However, one unaired episode, which did air overseas, featured the 2 concluding chapters of The Secret Empire, as well as the final part of Stop Susan Williams. American viewers later got a chance to see the concluding part of Stop Susan Williams when its 11 installments were re-edited into a single 2-hour television movie, The Girl Who Saved the World. Curse of Dracula was also re-edited into 2 television movies, Dracula 79 and World of Dracula. Now, Stop Susan Williams starred Susan Anton as Susan Williams, Ray Walston as Bob Richards, Marge Doucet as Jennifer Selden, Michael Swan as Jack Schoengarth, and Albert Paulson as Anthony Corp. The Secret Empire starred Geoffrey Scott as Marshal Jim Downer, Carlene Watkins as Millie Thomas, David Uptoshu as Hathor, and Mark Leonard as the Emperor Thorval. Diana Markoff as Princess Tara. The Curse of Dracula was Michael Nouri as Count Dracula, Carol Baxter as Mary Gibbons, Stephen Johnson as Kurt Von Helsing, Beverly Bainfield as Christine, and Louise Sorel as Amanda Gibbons, episodes 5 through 10. I have included 3 episodes of Cliffhangers in our YouTube playlist so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, the quality's not really there, and I'm sorry about that. I tried to find the best stuff I could. The episodes of Misfits of Science I included are great. I think I did 1, 2, 3, and number 16, which is the last episode. They look fine. You can watch them on YouTube, no problem. The Cliffhangers stuff is it's not good quality. It's not unwatchable, but you will definitely notice a difference in quality. The sepia tone does not translate very well. It just looks kind of hokey. Not that the effect itself was bad originally. It doesn't translate well, from television to videotape back to, YouTube. But I did I included 4 episodes of Cliffhangers, so you guys can check that out. It really was an interesting idea, and I wish they'd have given it a little more time. At least like the Dracula one was hugely popular. Everybody tuned into that one. My favorite was The Secret Empire. Mark Leonard basically plays Sarek. Mm-hmm. He's a little more emotional, but he's basically playing Sarek, and it's just really cool, the idea. Brilliant. The next series.
Before you go on to that, you had touched on something. I was just something interesting I saw just the other day that I didn't know about. You were talking about Happy Days. This show was opposite Happy Days of Laverne and Shirley.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that after the first season of Happy Days, it actually had low ratings, and the producers decided, I don't think it was Gary Marshall that did this. I don't remember Gary Marshall's name being attached to this part of it, but anyway, what was very popular was the Fonz.
Yeah.
He was a minor character, but he was a fan favorite. And what they decided they were going to do, and they went to Ron Howard, they said they were going to rename the show and focus the show over the Fonz.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron Howard was like, this is not what I signed up for. I don't want to do this. And they said, well, we're going to do this. So they went to Henry Winkler, who played the Fonz, and told him about it. And Henry
pissed Henry Winkler off, I'll bet.
Yes, it did. He said, no. He said, Ron Howard is the reason this show is even here. He's important to the show, and I will not do this if you change it this way. And so then Happy Days became what it was and became a success.
Yeah. Yeah.
I found that interesting.
They moved the front door of the house. So the front door was actually if you're looking at the house, for most of the series, the door was on the right. Mm-hmm. In the first season, it's on the left. It's on the total opposite side of the house. They also got rid of Chuck.
Yes, Chuck, the Richie's brother, who just never got mentioned again.
Yeah, well, all he did was eat and play basketball.
I know, but it's just weird that the character just went away.
Yeah, I think they mention him once or twice in the second season.
I don't think they mention him again. I think after season 1, that's it. He's gone.
No more Chuck.
Yeah, they don't even mention that they have another child in that family. So I think it's very interesting. So anyway, just something interesting I saw in Happy Days recently.
Happy Days. No, that's good. That's good. Hey, man, it's TV stuff. We like TV stuff.
Right.
That's what we're talking about today.
Right.
The next one I know you're familiar with. That's The Powers of Matthew Starr.
Yep. Watch this.
All right. Would you like to speak about this a little bit before I get into some of the show notes and stuff on it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. It is an American science fiction television series that aired on NBC on Friday evenings from September 17th, 82 until April 8th, 1983. It starred Peter Barton as the title character, the alien prince Matthew Ehawk Starr of the planet Quadrus, who used his powers to fight crime. Also starring were Andy Steele as Pam Elliott, Matthew's girlfriend in Crestridge High, and Louis Gossett Jr. as Walt DeHigh Shepard, Matthew's guardian. In 2002, The Powers of Matthew Starr was ranked number 22 on the list of TV Guide's 50 worst TV shows of all time.
Really?
Yeah. On June 7th, 2020, the program began airing in syndication on Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. as part of the MeTV Super Sci-Fi Saturday night block. I think it's still on. You can watch episodes of Matthew Starr early on Sunday morning on MeTV. And they've cleaned it up. Some of the episodes I've got in our YouTube playlist, and I think I just put the pilot on there. Mm-hmm. I think I know why people didn't like it. It's Peter Barton. He was terrible.
Yeah, the acting isn't great in it, but
Lou Gossett is great.
He's okay in it. I mean, overall, I don't think this is a show that will hold up or that holds up because it really wasn't great. But I had fun with this show. Show,
the idea behind the show is brilliant.
Well, yes, it was. I mean, there's when I think of The Powers of Matthew Starr, there's another series I think about which is actually much, much better and didn't get enough. It wasn't on the air for very long, and it should have. The Greatest American Hero.
Oh God! Yeah.
Because that one is phenomenal. They're talking about a reboot of that too.
Yeah. Well, they tried to bring it back in the late 80s, early 90s with the Greatest American Heroine. I should go out and see that, where he basically gives the suit up to a lady.
Yeah.
And she's just as clueless on how to use it as he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, the show was created by Stephen E. D'Souza and developed by Daniel Wilson, Harv Bennett, Robert Earl, and Alan Balter. Wilson, Bennett, and Bruce Lansbury were the executive producers. Star Trek actors worked behind the scenes in a few episodes. Leonard Nimoy directed the episode Triangle, and Walter Koenig wrote the episode Mother. The series underwent numerous title changes during development. These included Star Knight, Star Prince, Night Star, The Power of David Star, The Power of Daniel Star, and finally The Powers of Matthew Star. The original pilot, Star Knight, was to deal with a teenager, David Starr, who lived with the school janitor, Max, Gerald S. O'Loughlin. Max had a secret he was not sharing with David, who had no idea that he and Max were from another planet. And his powers began to surface. David started to understand who he was. Hot on their trail was the FBI. The original pilot was aired as the last episode of the TV series. As an example of one of the late title changes of the series, the Canadian issue of TV Guide's 1981 fall preview issue listed it as The Powers of Daniel Starr, with a full-page photo and paragraphs, whereas U.S. versions gave it the series a half-page blurb with the correct title, The Powers of Matthew Starr. To add to the confusion, the actual write-up in the Canadian issue correctly referred to Matthew Starr, meaning they did get the memo for the latest name change, but failed to update the header on top of the page. The program, originally slated to debut with the 1981's fall season with the new title and storyline, was delayed when the November 12th, 1981, Peter Barton fell backward onto pyrotechnics and was badly burned. While co-star Louis Gossett Jr., tied to a chair, had fallen on top of Barton but managed to rescue him. After a month in the hospital, Barton was released, recovering at home, while the show's production was shut down for 4 months. The series resumed shooting in early March of 1982. The series was canceled after one season. The first half of the series run dealt with Matthew Starr attending Crestridge High School and trying to survive his teenage years while dodging assassins, all under the watchful eye of his guardian, Walt Shepard, who stayed nearby as a science teacher at the school. Those in their lives who had no idea about the truth were Matthew's girlfriend, Pam Elliott, played by Amy Steele, his friend Bob Alexander, played by Chip Fry, and the merry principal, Mr. Heller, Michael Fairman. General Tucker, played by John Crawford, a U.S. Air Force officer specializing in extraterrestrial investigations, had tracked the two of them across the country as they evaded alien agents intent on exterminating them. From time to time, he enlisted their specialized aid in solving monumental problems. The first dozen episodes dealt with the daily troubles of high school students, although in the episode The Triangle, a chance trip to the Bermuda Triangle resulted in the discovery of a Quadrian messengers who told the pair that the king had been executed. Ehawk, or Matthew, was crowned the new king in a torchlit cave. In the episode Mother, a strange carnival gypsy is revealed to be Matthew's mother, Nadra, who had been traveling the galaxy and hiding from assassins. The reunion was bittersweet due to Nadra's health problems. She was forced to leave Crest Ridge for an undisclosed location at a higher elevation. Finally, in the Fugitive episode, Walt, trying to elude a nosy doctor, comes into contact with a substance in the hospital that causes him to have a deadly allergic reaction. At the same time, Matthew is being booked into jail and needs Walt to bail him out. At the last minute, Matthew manages to save Walt, as he's done many times throughout the series. Matthew's power during the seasons were mainly telekinetic, being able to move objects with the power of his mind. Hence the title, The Powers of Matthew Starr. This power was illustrated in the opening credits as moving a book back into a slot on a bookshelf. And in an episode, he used telekinesis to manipulate a football and raise rocks that had buried an experimental Air Force flying unit, and then its simulation. The opening title suggests that members of his family had other powers that probably expanded after achieving physical maturity and with practice. But the series took a sudden turn from a dramatic adventure series to a by-the-book adventure series, with Walt and Matthew having to deal with government assignments. Major Wymore, James Karen, replaced General Tucker, John Crawford, and met with Quadrians in all sorts of strange locations, where he briefed them on the mission. Gone were Pam and Bob and references to the high school. Matthew was being portrayed as older, and not much was said about his true mission, which was returning to Quadris to take back their world from the enemy. Matthew had previously used the nickname Shep for his guardian, but with the sudden format change, Matthew started calling him Walt. In the gap between episodes 12 and 13, Matthew apparently developed or perfected additional powers, including separating his intelligence into an astral simulation of his current appearance that could walk through walls as an astral projection. Another power was transmutation of objects. The name of the marauder species that attacked Quadrus is unrevealed. They seem human, but tend to explode when they hit water. These human replicants may just be service drones working for a real enemy, an image of which may have been seen in the first pilot when Matthew was David. While the Marauders would invade Quadrus but not Earth, it is not known. However, it may have to do with the powers of the Quadrians as to why the Marauders invaded them. They do seem to have incredible strength. The Marauder in the second pilot, played by Judson Scott, mentioned someone named Olin, who gave them chemicals to feel pleasure. The character Olin is never revealed. So NBC knew this show was in trouble, which is why they had a change about halfway through the run. And again, I think the biggest problem with the powers of Matthew Starr was the star. What's his name? I scrolled past it.
Peter Barton.
Peter Berg. Yeah, I've never seen him in anything else. But him getting injured.
I can't think of anything I've seen him in either. Yeah,
Louis Gossett's done all kinds of stuff.
Oh, sure.
And the other cast members, I see them in other stuff too. But I'm gonna be honest. I think Peter Barton was the reason why this show didn't do very well, because he just really was not good. It looked like he was reading. But, part of that may have been because he got injured too. He fell onto pyrotechnics and got badly burned. He was still dealing with that when they were filming.
So
but he really did.
He had a few film roles. Doesn't look like anything big. He had guest spots in shows. Looks like he went on to soap operas. He was on Burke's Law 94 to 95 for 25 episodes. And then the longest run was 97 and 98 on Sunset Beach, which I think was a soap opera for 167 episodes. Yeah, it was a soap opera.
So he did a soap opera. Well, at least he found work.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wasn't good. And I went back and watched it. It's like, oh my God, he's really sucking the air out of this show. Which it's sad, because I think the idea for the show was brilliant.
Right.
And Louis Gossett Jr. wasn't, the greatest he's ever done, but he wasn't bad. Paul Barton was terrible, which is sad because he really looks the role. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He looks like he could be an alien with superpowers. So, they cast him correctly for looks, but yeah, that's about it for 3 little known sci-fi shows: Misfits of Science, Cliffhangers, and The Powers of Matthew Starr. Misfits of Science, we've got 4 episodes. We've got the second pilot of The Powers of Matthew Starr, and we've got 3 episodes of Cliffhangers on our YouTube playlist right now. You can go out and check out.
Awesome. Well, good stuff. Give those a watch. They were all short-lived series, so weren't insanely popular. But as Zig said, the ideas behind them were pretty solid. They just may not have been executed very well.
Yeah. They were really good.
Plus,
stuff.
Put up against shows that they just had no chance against.
All 3 of them were on NBC too.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for that. Go give those a watch. See what you think. With that, I will take over on the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
For today, I got my information off ABC News Australia, The Guardian, Medium, BBC, and Justice for Celeste. And this is the murder of Celeste Manno.
Celeste Manno.
So Celeste Manno was born on November 22nd, 1996 in Melbourne, Australia, to parents Tony Manno and Aggie DeMauro. She had an older brother named Alessandro. Growing up, she loved to dance, and she was a popular and well-loved girl, and she was particularly close to her mother, Aggie, so much so that even at the age of 23, Aggie would still tuck her daughter into bed every night. In June 2019, Celeste was working in a call center and had worked her way up to being the team leader. One day when at work, she had to escort another employee who she had only known briefly out of the building after he was fired. Celeste had known the worker, but had felt sorry for him. And before they parted, Celeste apologized to the man and extended her hand in order to shake his. But before she could do anything, the man grabbed Celeste and kissed her on the cheek. This would be Celeste's first direct encounter with 35-year-old Louis Nader Sacco. The encounter had left Celeste feeling embarrassed, and that evening she had told her mother about it when she arrived home. Her mother didn't think anything of it and told Celeste that the man had probably had a crush on her. Realizing that her mother was right and that it was nothing more than a harmless crush, Celeste put the awkward incident behind her. She had recently started dating Chris Risdale, who was a man who worked at the same call center as Celeste. Just days after Louis was fired, however, he contacted Celeste on Instagram. He wrote, quote, "I can't stop thinking about you. I can't get your eyes and gorgeous smile out of my head." This alarmed Celeste, and she once again confided in her mother. And from this point on, Louis' fixation with Celeste grew quickly as he bombarded her with more and more intimate messages. The next messages were, quote, "I've never felt this way about anyone in my entire life. I'm totally infatuated with you, captivated and fascinated by you. I'd give my life and the world to you just to be with you." Sounds a little bit like the guy we covered in Exclusive 18.
Yes.
If you want to hear that episode, patrons, become a patron.
Yes, become a patron. Tell your friends.
Celeste messaged him back politely, informing that Louis she did not reciprocate these feelings and asked him to leave her alone as she felt uncomfortable with his unwanted advances. But it seemed that her rejection only fueled him more. She had wrote to him, quote, "Stop contacting me as this is making me uncomfortable. Please respect my wishes," and stops. Despite her pleas to Louis, his messages were constant, and as time passed, they began to get more nasty. In one message, he wrote, quote, "I love you with all my heart, so forgive me when I say this, but you're lame." Celeste then blocked Louis' accounts, but no sooner had she done so, he would create more profiles to harass her. The stalking was becoming relentless, and Celeste decided to no longer plead with Louis and instead began to ignore his messages, which made things worse as Louis' desperation grew. In one lengthy message to Celeste, he had become angry, claiming that she turned out to be, quote, "no different to the majority of women," and that he would, quote, "devote every ounce of energy to proving to the world that he was somebody." He vowed, however, to no longer contact her, but unfortunately he would not keep this promise. The full message of what he said was, quote, "I'm so infatuated with you, it's now become unhealthy. I know my words don't help me. I'm sorry for coming on strong, Celeste. I'm just another rival for your affection. I'm truly sorry for making you feel uncomfortable. I really just wanted to speak with you, and I honestly thought you were ignoring me. My impression of you has changed. You're no different to the majority of women. I'll remember you in this lesson for all life, and I will devote every ounce of energy I have to climbing up and proving to the world that I'm somebody. This is my promise to you and my final contact with you."
Huh. That sounds ominous.
Celeste's boyfriend Chris has since this spoken about the pain of watching the effect of the harassment had on Celeste. He said that she was frightened and couldn't eat or sleep due to the relentless stalking. Her mother Aggie expressed concerns to her daughter that he might find out where she lived, but Celeste quickly shut down her mother's concerns and stated that he would soon get bored and stop when he accepted she was not interested. But sadly, he would not, and this was only a brief glimpse into the horror of what was to come. After 6 months, Celeste and Aggie finally decided enough was enough, and they headed down to their local police station to file a report. But the police told the women that Louis had not committed a crime, therefore there was nothing that could be done. The officer they spoke to turned to Celeste and told her, quote, "just ignore him." And after telling the police officer that this is what she had already done, the officer responded with, quote, "well, that's just social media these days. If you don't like it, get off social media." So being turned away from the police, Celeste felt even more helpless and vulnerable. The police were unwilling to assist and hadn't done so much as taken Louay's name. Over the next 6 months, it would get worse. Louay was soon sighted outside of Celeste's workplace. He had now started following her and even figured out where she lived after having followed her home one night after work. And the Instagram messages he was now sending had become sexually explicit. He wrote, quote, "Have you ever had a beast pounce on you, Celeste?" And quote, "I want some fun. Celeste, if you had my body for a day, what would you do with me?" And quote, "A single girl like yourself is bound to be switching from one cunt to another, probably because deep down you know you're kinky. Hence, this makes you a slut." Celeste and her loved ones were now extremely worried about Louay and his intentions with her. And Celeste and Aggie once again went back to the police, but this time they had more success. This time, the police officer was more than willing to listen, and he took a full statement from Celeste and took down Louay's details. He advised Celeste to get an intervention order immediately, which is like what we have, a restraining order.
Yeah.
Louay was soon served with a personal safety intervention order, which meant that he would be prohibited from contacting Celeste, and if he went against this order, he would be arrested. Aggie, however, was not convinced that her daughter was safe and warned her daughter, quote, "This is just a piece of paper, sweetie. Let's remember that." For about a month, it seemed that the intervention order had worked. That was up until a 3-page letter popped up on Celeste's Instagram account, and it was Louay back again. This time, he was pleading with Celeste to stop ruining his life. He wrote, quote, "Please see reason, Celeste. Please, Celeste. The ball is in your court. There's a desperation in my voice because I'm afraid. I'm afraid that my life is fast derailing and steering off track. Everything that I've worked for, improved on, suddenly seems to be fading away, but there's still time to undo this, Celeste. Please undo this." He proceeded on the letter to blame Celeste for the trouble he was in and taking no accountability for his own actions. He pleaded with Celeste, writing as if it was her fault for his own downward spiral. He continued, quote, "Only you can end this, Celeste. Please end this nonsense by withdrawing the order and stopping the charges against me for stalking and harassment. And if you make the right choice, Celeste, both of us can move on and we can finally have peace of mind." So since Louay had breached the order, Celeste called the police, and they reacted, and they did arrest Louay.
Yes.
This was a moment of relief for Aggie and Celeste, and they thought that the nightmare ordeal was finally over. However, they were wrong because Louay's next move was to purchase a weapon. Meanwhile, Celeste finally began enjoying her life. She was carefree and not having to look over her shoulder for the first time in a year. She even enjoyed a date in the beautiful town of Fitzroy, Melbourne, at a rooftop bar with Christopher. And this was one of his favorite memories of the pair. Unknown to the loving couple at the time, this was one of the last places the pair would get to visit together. Their final photo together would show them both beaming at the camera on a glowing sunny day. And Celeste could not wait to post the image to her social media. However, this photo would trigger Louay to commit his most horrific act yet. After having been released from police custody, Louay had once again began stalking Celeste. He was monitoring her posts on social media to work out where she was, what she was up to, and who she was with. And he also staked out her home and discovered which room in the house was hers by watching the windows and activity. On November 16th, 2020, Celeste and Aggie were the only ones home, and it was bedtime. They just said goodnight to each other. The last memory Aggie ever had of her daughter, it was as she stood at Celeste's bedroom and asked her if she wanted the bedroom light on or off. Celeste told her to leave it on, saying she would turn it off herself when she was ready. Just before 4 a.m., armed with a hammer and a large kitchen knife, Louay smashed through Celeste's bedroom window and violently attacked her. Aggie heard the shattering of glass and the loud commotion. She raced from her bed, screaming Celeste's name, as she rushed into her daughter's bedroom. She entered the room, and she stood barefoot in glass, and she noticed blood all over her daughter's room. She ran to Celeste, screaming and asking what happened. And as Aggie tried to pull her out of bed, she noticed that Celeste was lifeless and not moving. Outside, security footage showed Louay fleeing in his car. Aggie did desperately fight to save her daughter's life as she pleaded her daughter not to leave her, but sadly it was too late because Celeste was already dead. The attack took 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes.
Emergency services quickly arrived to the home, and police informed Aggie that it was now a crime scene. There was a knife that had been found in the bedroom where Celeste had been killed. Officers were alarmed to hear Aggie claim to know who killed her daughter and took Louis's name. An autopsy report that was later carried out showed Celeste had been stabbed 23 times in the attack.
Good God.
It had been a strike directly to her heart that had killed her, though. As she lay asleep in her bed, Celeste didn't stand a chance against Louis. His next move proved how premeditated the murder had been. He drove directly to the police station to hand himself in. He began asking officers to shoot him and blame law enforcement for her murder. Louis was trying to get away with imprisonment on mental impairment is what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Aggie then quickly began to learn the law so she could be prepared for what was coming. And the more she learned about the justice system, however, the angrier she became. The case was in and out of court for the next 3 years until Louis finally pleaded guilty to murdering Celeste, but only after failing to convince psychiatrists that he was mentally ill. In court, Louis was forced to look at a glowing orb, which was made from Celeste's ashes, as he sat through his sentencing. And all the while, Aggie shouted to him, "She's dead, she's dead. Go have a look. You know what happened. It's your fault." Louis, who's now 39 years old, he tried averting his gaze from the glowing blue statue, which was placed next to Aggie as she spoke about her daughter in the court. The outcome of the sentencing was just more heartache for this first Celeste family, as they learned that Louis would only be sentenced for 30 years. Justice Dixon told the court that the case did not warrant life imprisonment because Louis had been diagnosed with extreme personality disorder, which caused significant impairment of his mental functioning at the time of the offense. Louis showed no emotion during the sentencing, expressed no remorse. Later, Aggie spoke outside the Victorian Supreme Court, surrounded by Celeste's father and brother, and said, quote, "We were forced to trust the system that we lost faith in 3 years ago. It failed Celeste then, it failed her now. It's outrageous, absolutely unbelievable that the court decided to grant him mercy, even though he showed Celeste none." Outside of court, Aggie said law reform on stalking promised to her after Celeste's death had yet to be implemented. She said, quote, "I've had 3.5 years of endless meetings. When these people met with me, they made promises, commitments. They wanted to start the Victorian Law Reform Commission report into stalking laws. The VLRC report was tabled well over a year ago. I waited and waited until I could wait no longer. I basically realized that the door was shut and there were a lot of promises made, none of them honored." Her frustrations are still being felt today. On March 28th, prosecutors in the case decided not to appeal Louis' sentence or push him to be locked up for life. Aggie called the prosecutors pathetic and weak, and she felt pure disgust. She said she did not believe the family had any further legal avenues of appeal, but insisted she has not given up. Aggie does continue to fight for justice for her daughter to this day. You can read more about how you can help her with this fight by visiting the website Justice for Celeste, and the link will be in our show on our show notes for the website. So make sure to check that out. And that's the story of the murder of Celeste Manno.
Well, thank you, sir. I will say this: the police responded rather rapidly. Once the attack happened.
But the initial police officer, once again, that's one that didn't do their job, didn't take the case seriously. I mean, told her, if you don't like it, get off social media. Yeah. This person was obviously stalking.
Yeah.
And was, in so many cases that we talk about, police don't react sooner to prevent something like this from happening, because this was a preventable crime. There were things that could be done, and when he broke the whatever they call the restraining order there. Damn it! Now I got to find it.
The Australian restraining order.
Yeah, the Australian restraining order. I got to find it. I can't find it. But anyway, yes, the Australian restraining order. When he broke it, he probably should have gone to jail for longer, and then he broke it again. I think there were some inactions from the police that could have prevented a tragedy here. So,
yeah, because especially since he went through the window and 2.5 minutes later he was out, giving the mom just time enough to basically get woke up, get down the hall, and
absolutely horrific. So, thanks for taking that journey with me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
That takes us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find more about our show on nerdarymurder.com. That's our hub for everything we talk about. It has links to the episode, pictures from the episode, as well as a link to our YouTube page, which Zig so often updates.
Yes, I would encourage everybody to go and look for EP 149 in the YouTube page so you can see what we're talking about. You can see Matthew Starr and Cliffhangers and Misfits of Science. And Courtney
Cox.
Yeah, Courtney Cox, thank you. Courtney Cox at I don't know, she looks like she's like 16. She's older than that, but she looks like a baby.
Yeah, please do go check that out. On our website, you can also find the link to our merchandise page, or if you wish to show off your Nerdery Murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something from our store. You can also find the link to our Patreon, where if you wish to become a patron and help donate with the costs of the show, our patron donations plus our merchandise does go to the cost to keep us on the air. There are costs that are associated with producing this show, doing the uploads, keeping our website going. So please do consider that. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
And last but not least, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us and helps others find our content that we may be talking about. And then stay tuned next week. We've got episode 150. It's going to be our wife swap episode where we swap roles. So make sure to stay tuned for that. So with that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey with your murdery.
Cue the music.